Next from Springfield, State Senator Andy Manar holds a press conference to discuss the latest developments with the high-speed rail project for Illinois and the minority hiring for the project. This runs about 12 minutes.
Relative to transparency, what all would you want to make transparent?
So Terry, when the bill's filed, you'll see there's 7 specific paragraphs in the bill that literally take the community benefit agreement, which is universally accepted among local governments in Sangamon County, and puts them into state law. So back to the point of why is that necessary? It's necessary to have that formal venue in place so that questions that are legitimate questions, not to be confrontational, not to pick fights, not to insert division into what is undoubtedly a very complicated construction project through an urban community, but to have a venue so we can air these things out and get to the bottom of questions that are legitimate. So, for example, are we meeting hiring goals for not just the specific project in a long string of projects, but the entire project? Are we on course to meet the goals that we have set forth for minority participation? If the answer is yes, then let's tell people. If the answer is no, then let's figure out how we get the answer to be yes. Let's use the commission to do that. Are we investing money into job training, which is a requirement of the community benefit agreement? If the answer is yes, then let's tell people and let's celebrate that, because that's how we as elected officials and individuals see the benefit of this project. If the answer is no, then let's exercise the duty of the commission and law to get that answer to be yes, because that's in the benefit agreement. So questions that come up, Mr. Jordan, rattled off 3 or 4 in his opening remarks. Those are questions that are outstanding questions today that we don't have the answers to, and that people ought to have the answers to. So instead of saying, well, this group is, the engineers are in charge of answering the question, or IDOT, or federal DOT, or the state legislator, or the city of Springfield, or Sangamon County, and everybody's pointing fingers in different directions, let's have a formal commission where everyone can bring facts and figures and we can air this stuff out. And to me, that's something everybody ought to embrace, because that's ultimately how we get this project done and we see the benefit of it for Sangamon County.
Is there, high-speed rail is a complicated thing
Yeah.
to create. Is there a danger that we're making an already complicated project much more difficult by injecting a layer of political decision-making on engineers and non-politicians? We're going to be looking over their shoulder every time they want to make a decision and think, what's the commission going to say?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's something that as we sat down and put together the words of the bill, we were very cognizant of. So what we're not after is making what is undoubtedly a complicated puzzle of funding and permitting and all of those things more complicated. That's not what we're after. But let's be clear. What we are after is realizing the promise that was made that allowed the consolidation to the 10th Street corridor to move forward. That is what we're after, because that is what was promised to the Springfield community, and that's what the bill is intended to help facilitate and eventually be realized. So back to the previous question, this is a complicated process. We've seen it play itself out over the past, 4 or 5 years now. We have many, many years to go with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment. So we need a venue. We need a venue, not to make things more complicated, but to make sure people's voices are heard. And that's what this is designed to do. Anything else?
Does, this may or may not, which is the nature of my question. I don't know if you would have, the commission would be responsible at all in this regard. There was an engineering study on this proposal, the high-speed rail. And what they came up with is, because the rails are going to be shared with freight trains, this isn't high-speed rail like we have in other nations. we're gonna go from an average speed of 56 miles an hour currently to 62 miles an hour. And that's what we're calling high-speed rail.
Yeah.
That you can have a Ferrari, but if you're driving in Chicago traffic, you ain't gonna be going fast.
Right.
So, to what extent, who's watching out for the taxpayer to go, why are we spending over $1 billion and labeling something which isn't high-speed rail?
Yeah. I would say that I get a lot of calls to my office with that criticism. That is a budgetary process through both appropriations on the congressional level and to a lesser extent, you know, what Sue and I do on the state level with IDOT's appropriations. As the pastor mentioned, much of the money that comes to the state government, if not all of it, pretty close to all of it, for this project, not just the piece in Sangamon County, but statewide from Springfield to Chicago, is federal pass-through funds. But that doesn't mean the state abdicates its responsibility either. You know, it is rail that is faster. Whether or not it's high speed, I would say that's probably up to whoever's answering the question or asking the question, Terry. Yeah, certainly isn't a bullet train, but.
That would not be part of your responsibilities?
No, we're not proposing any changes to the scope of the project. That's an important point. We're simply saying that agreement that is universally accepted in this community should have the force of state law behind it and should be enforced so that the benefit is realized.
Is there, one last, I don't mean to dominate, but in minority hiring, historically, one of the hurdles to having more minorities hired is that they're not members of a union, and the way the project is constructed, you have to be a member of the union. Is there some way to overcome that? Are you talking to unions to try to say, how do we bridge that?
Sure.
I'll just make a comment to that. A couple of different things that are already in place and then other things going forward. Calvin's got, you can see the gentleman behind us. Part of the agreement is that there's got to be job skill development. Another thing is the career training program that we have out at Lincoln Land College. And those kind of things are to help our minorities get into union jobs. So there are pieces already in place to help make this happen. And at a certain point, I feel like part of the reason that we're in the mess that we're in is because people just say, it's just too hard. We can't get that accomplished. And then okay, well, then you don't have to. And you know what? We're trying to do a lot of different things to get this accomplished. And I agree completely with what you're saying. And then to take it a step further, then that means we just need to work harder to make that happen.
So if it's going to be a complicated process, how long do you guys think it will take?
Well, I've heard timelines anywhere from, that Carpenter Street will be done in 2 years to 10 years and everything in between. This is one of the biggest projects I'd say that the state is taking on. So this isn't going to happen overnight. I do feel good that at the end of the day that the whistles will not be blowing and our people crossing the streets will be much safer. So in that, I'm very appreciative of that part about it.
Can I ask, how do we determine what is the proper level of minority hiring? I would say we often hear these things, well, 12% of Springfield is minority, and yet only 4% of teachers, or I'm making the numbers up approximately. But unless people are applying for the jobs, you can't Shanghai people to get the proper level. What's the determination of what's the appropriate level of minority hiring?
Yeah, that's a good question. As Ms. Wallace said in her remarks, many of those standards, some of the most important standards, haven't been updated since 1979 on the federal level. So it's hard to answer the question, Terry, when we realize that many of those standards haven't been reviewed or updated since 1979. So what I think we're interested in is understanding that, again, there's a major investment of hundreds of millions of dollars that's going to occur over any number of years in Sangamon County, which is a good thing. By anybody's standards, that is a good thing. We just have to make sure that the benefit of that investment is reaching everyone in the community. And so we'll have debates about what are appropriate standards and how do we get there, and what is too much or too little. I think the important thing for today is that we are going to attempt anyway to formalize this process so that we can have that conversation. So we can have the conversation. What is a reasonable number, a reasonable expectation for this project?
Does the CBA outline specific numbers for minority hiring for this specific project?
I think it does, doesn't it,
Yes, it
Pastor?
does.
Did you get those numbers? I know
Sure.
I've done a lot of CBAs.
Yeah, and the CBA is on the Faith Coalition's website. Yeah, and it's very specific, very good document, very specific, lays these things out.
So then your bill would, any documents like this around the state would basically support these kind of agreements at the community level, then take them to the state level,
Yeah.
and say, live up to the expectations.
Yes,
then. Okay.
yes. And again, I want to make this point one more time. There was division in Springfield about how this project should proceed. 3rd Street, 10th Street. The community came together and accepted a 10th Street scenario because of the work of many individuals in this room and beyond, organizations in this room and beyond, and because of that document. So it's important to us that the state put some weight behind that document.
How many citizens are expected to be displaced with this 10th Street project?
I don't know. Do you know, Esther? I'm not sure. 150. Properties, sorry. Properties. Okay, thank you all very much.